Hello everybody and welcome to a tutorial Let's Play for Adventure Mode in Dwarf Fortress. In this video we are going to be playing as a Goblin. Well, rather, in this series we're going to be playing as a Goblin. The reason for this is Goblins only eat and drink for enjoyment, and not out of necessity. While we are going to be covering foraging and food, I think that a Goblin is the easiest place to start. Many of the animal people and various creatures that people enjoy playing require meat to survive, meaning you need large human cities to be accessible in order to be successful as an adventurer. Because that is where you can find the most plentiful variety of meats for animals and creatures that only eat meat. The goal for this adventure is not to be super violent. We're going to be playing as a bard type character, maybe somebody with some loose long-ranged abilities. Of course, we'll have a little bit of combat experience, but our goal is mostly to journey and explore. We will be starting in this region, down here in the far south, probably in one of these human cities or villages. There's many human castles and hamlets around that will be awesome for us to explore initially. And as we move southeast, we're going to head down the perimeter of the waters and explore through this elven region. And then eventually work our way back up north through the untamed wilds past these mountains in the direction of the human cities in the far east. We're going to explore some of these cities and hamlets and towns, and then head north once again to the very, very, very far east, on the other side of the ice that they say never melts. So now we're ready to begin our Let's Play. We're going to be playing as an adventurer, obviously. We're going to let the calendar move forward by 2 weeks. It is springtime, so foraging is going to be a challenge. We're going to play as a hero for this particular adventurer, and we're going to be using the normal difficulty setting. The only difference between these difficulty settings is easy, you get a lot more points to spend on skills and gear. Normal, you get less, and hard, you get almost none. The reason we're not going to be playing as ordinary is I like having a compass. If you want to have the compass up in the top left of the screen and be able to see directions as to where you are headed, you want to play a hero. Ordinary, you have no idea where you're going and will be lost most of the time. Just for the sake of our own spatial awareness, we'll be playing as a hero. Now, this world has quite a few different creatures on offer that we could theoretically play as, but we're going to be selecting our Goblin character. Goblins generally have a population in almost every type of space, and as you can see, there's lots of humans down here we could play as. Of course, there's also dwarven populations in the human locations as well, and the animal people appear to mostly be populated amongst combinations of the humans and the elves. For the story of this playthrough, the Wayward Empires seems to fit the best. It's a human civilization that primarily exists in the southwest of the world. However, they do have one town up here in the far northeast, which is close to our destination, implying that our character from down here would probably know some folks who live up in this region, which is why we are journeying there. Skimming through the towns, we noticed that Zenith Glaze is one of the higher ones on the list that we could select, which is that town that's all the way up there. But we're gonna kind of skim around a little bit until we find one that fits our fancy. I do notice that there is a human town. We will have to visit there before we head too far out. Human towns have some interesting locations that can be visited, and I think it would be a good one to get some exploring in. I also quite like the unintended pun of the town of Villages. But we are going to be a citizen of Cup Axe. Cup Axe is on the far beaches in the far southwest. Hearth Person is essentially just a member of the faction, which is what we are going to select for this particular adventurer. It's also a role that is unique to adventure mode. For our beliefs, we are not religious. And for our name, we're going to go with the name of Bora Learnwalk, as we are learning as we go. And we're going to accept our background. And the attributes that we are going to give this adventurer are above average strength, which changes our melee attack damage and our running speed. However, having high strength slows down your overall speed as you have more muscle to carry around. Toughness reduces the amount of damage we can take. Disease resistance lowers the chances of us developing a syndrome if we ingest something that we shouldn't, or get something that we shouldn't on our skin. Linguistic ability allows us to communicate more effectively, and musicality allows us to perform music more effectively. For our skills, I've decided to give us a bunch of points in fighting, which is kind of your generic fighting skill, makes you better at fighting in general. Swimming, so I don't accidentally drown. Dodging, which is useful because it stops you from taking damage. Throwing, because who doesn't want to throw something at the enemy. Reading, because it's impossible to learn unless you put at least 1 point into it. And persuading, because persuading is how we convince people to help us and do things for us. Same with intimidating. We're not putting that many points into combat because my hope is to simply avoid it when it happens. There's the description of our goblin. Goblins don't actually have the sprites yet for beards, so for that, we're just going to play as a lady goblin, because then she is less likely to get an incorrect description. Her very long hair is neatly combed. Also, they don't have hair sprites yet, but we'll work with it. She is short, her nose is slightly hooked, and she has a narrow recessed chin. She has a scratchy voice, her small-lobed ears are somewhat splayed out, and her head is short. Her eyebrows are short, and her hair is carmine. Her skin is jade, and her eyes are red. She's a medium-sized humanoid, driven to cruelty by its evil nature. She personally believes that those who sacrifice for others should be deeply respected, finds those that develop skills with weapons and fighting distasteful, respects power and doesn't see the attainment of knowledge as important, and dreams of creating a masterwork someday. Let's see if we can change our dream and goal, if possible. It doesn't appear to be possible, which I think is a bit of a shame. We do have an extreme need to be extravagant, which means we need to acquire as much bling as humanly possible. That seems acquirable and doable. We clearly are an alcoholic, and we need to eat a good meal, and we also need to fight, which is interesting. We also have a moderate need to argue, which can also be dealt with. These do need to be satisfied to a degree in order to keep your character happy. If your character gets too depressed, well, they might just start crying randomly and not want to fight anymore. Now, something to keep in mind when selecting your gear. Depending on the type of creature, it might be very hard to acquire gear. Fortunately, goblins are the same size as dwarves, and the same size as elves, meaning acquiring gear for goblins is quite easy. However, if you're playing something like a bear man, or an elephant man, you might want to build a fortress first, and specialize in making masterwork gear, or at least gear for that type of creature, because otherwise they might not be able to find gear naturally in the world. Now, by default, they start you off with a carving knife. This is for the butchery skill, which isn't currently in the game. However, they're not that bad of a throwing weapon unless they're made out of oak. This one being a wooden carving knife, not the most effective, so we're just going to remove that. The water skin carries liquids, which is very useful, although keep in mind a quiver can often be a better liquid carrying device. Our weapons for this here adventurer are going to be a copper crossbow and an iron flail. I'm also going to bring with us 10 bronze bolts. You have to be careful with the amount of stuff you bring, as you might start off over encumbered. But because we're starting off in a human location, I'm going to try my best to find some sort of animal that we can take with us as a pack mule. It's also worth noting that if you choose to take armor with you, such as copper gauntlets, you won't need those gloves. So feel free to remove those as quickly as you assign different pieces of gear. So when you add in copper greaves, you absolutely can remove that skirt. Same with our low boots. We can now remove our sandals. And of course, this sea otter leather helm. So the gear that we are bringing with for our adventure today: a copper crossbow, an iron flail, 10 bolts, and a small osprey leather dress. The one thing I really think we're missing is a buckler, just to get some basic shield. Nothing fancy, just one made of copper. We also have a sea otter leather helm, 2 gauntlets, some socks, and of course, some leather low boots, copper greaves, copper buckler, and our prepared sturgeon brain. Now, goblins don't need to eat or drink out of necessity. They do, however, enjoy it, so there's nothing wrong with bringing some food with so that they have something to nom on the road. It'll be a nice pick-me-up mental-wise. And now we get the opportunity to skim through the different animals available. Because our goblin would like a pet, I'm going to give them something to bring around that will be theirs. Although, as you can see, we do have elephants as well as black bears available. I'm going to hopefully find us a mount before we leave town, as well as grizzly bears and various other things. I like the idea of bringing a pet hedgehog. And this hedgehog is named Lar Nourished Silks, which I think is a very good name for our hedgehog. Although, personally, I think we can come up with a slightly better name for it. We're going to call it Lar Run Run, because I've heard that hedgehogs go fast. Besides, Lar Baz Baz has a nice ring to it. Since we still have some points left to spend on our equipment, something that you can always do is increase the quality of your gear. This will make it slightly nicer and also improve your adventurer's happiness about walking around with it. So we can slowly improve a few different things, because after all, our adventurer does like to be extravagant. We can spend those extra 4 points on some extra brain to bring with us for snacks. And now it's time to go to our adventurer. So let this tutorial Let's Play for your first goblin begin here, at this place. The citizens of Wemosp are plagued by bandits. The gang, led by Thomo's Fist, City's Strife Palm, even sent some troublemakers to harass people right here in town. You finally got your equipment together, such as it is, and now it's time for action and adventure. In the rush of excitement, you've forgotten where you're going to go. But perhaps some of your friends here can remind you. So we can look at our adventure at any point. We are listed as a recruit. We also have some long-term acquaintances who are local, including some prophets. We must be a funny member of the bunch. She always presents herself as extravagantly as possible, and this is something that we need to remember. Of course, if you're watching this Let's Play, the save file for the Let's Play at the end of every episode will be uploaded to the YouTube channel, as well as one save file from the very beginning, which will be attached to every single episode. So if you'd like to start as this adventurer right here, right now, you can go download that in the description of this video. It's also very much worth noting that while you're playing adventure mode, you should always save, because adventure mode doesn't currently, at least at the time of recording, have a built-in save function. Meaning, if you would like to have a consistently available, safe adventurer that isn't going to randomly vanish from your save files, save often and save frequently, and save early. Now, we're in the starting tavern that we've started this save file in. Sometimes you'll be in a house, sometimes you'll be in a building, and sometimes you'll be around friends. If I move my mouse around, we'll see that some people have names, and some people have things like a description of them. So, this person right here has a name, this person has a name, and this person has a name, meaning these are all people that we know. If I move forward a little bit, people will start talking up here. I've heard people refer to this as spam. It's not. These are people in the vicinity speaking about what's going on. Right here, the human prophet, Tuskis, Bothras Luda, says, "Oh, where is Moringraze? I cannot give in to sadness. I cannot give in to sadness." The human criminal Lum says, "Oh, where is Bora? Mourn in graze. I cannot give in to sadness." People really miss somebody named Bora. Who is that, I wonder, as I put my weapons back onto my person. Let's speak with this criminal right here. Having a peek at them, they do have a bronze slicing knife, terrifying, as well as a bag of coin. They don't have any health problems, and their hair is wavy, and they do have a very long beard. If I right-click on them, and either hit A on the keyboard, or click this, which says Start a Conversation, we can greet them and introduce ourselves. Whenever you introduce yourself, they gain your name and learn who you are. Meaning, sometimes, if you're in an area where you're about to commit a crime, you may want to bypass the greeting, so they never learn who you are specifically. We're going to greet this listener. We say, "Hello, Lum," and Lum responds with, "Hello, it's good to see you. Life is in a word, theft. Traveling alone in the wilds? You know better than that." They must know that we're planning a journey. Now, Dwarf Fortress allows the conversation system to have multiple conversations at once, allow you to be talking to somebody and whispering gossip while also discussing the gossip with somebody else. Now, this makes the conversation a little bit tricky, because in between every conversation, the conversation bubble disappears, meaning you either have to hit K on the keyboard to have the screen pop up again, or click the button down here, right next to the perform button. This allows you to then continue the conversation. Now, while this system, once you get used to it, allows you to quite quickly move through conversations, while getting used to it, it can feel a little bit tedious. But don't worry, if you use some of the basic hotkeys, or just get used to the system, it does get easier quite quickly. It's just a bit unconventional. But unconventional systems can often allow for a lot of mechanical flexibility, which this system very much does. So we know that a lot of people were talking about that person, Bora. Let's have a look, if we can find out anything about them. The person that they already miss is me. So let's ask about me. Apparently we are this person's neighbor. So now we know that they are our neighbor. Let's ask about them, this criminal that we are speaking with. So once again, ask about somebody specific. We're gonna ask about Lum. "This is my 21st year as a criminal," they say. "I wonder what drove them to such a life of crime." I think we should ask them about their values, specifically about crime. Well, more specifically, the law. We're gonna discuss my values of the nuances of law. And I say, "Some laws are just, while others are made to be broken." And they say, "Truly." We can continue the conversation. And because we agreed, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get more out of them about the law. When you state your values, you have the option to state your values that you don't fully agree with. So I'm going to state the worthlessness of law. And I say, nothing gives them the right to establish these laws. And they respond with, "Yes, I can see it clearly now. But they are becoming impatient with us." Which means I think it's time for us to flatter them. The human mutters to themselves and they say, "I realize the worthlessness of law. It is interesting. And I say, the large alpaca wool sandal really makes the outfit. Complimenting their shoes, they say, thank you for your kind words. They're still impatient with us, so clearly my flattery wasn't enough. What if I attempt to tell a joke? The martial Rosha in the background says, I'm Rosha. Praise suicide. What a strange thing to worship. And I say, and the goblin said, are you going to eat that? And the human criminal responds with, you're funny. So this human criminal is my neighbor. It's quite interesting. Maybe they'd be interested in joining us. I ask them to join me on adventures, and they say, I would rather not. I guess they would prefer to pursue a life of crime. We're going to view them and see that they are interested after realizing the worthlessness of law. I hope that I've helped them forward their career. Looking at myself, we can see that we feel fondness when interacting with our pet. It must be the hedgehog. I'm going to continue the conversation with this character, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and ask them about their profession. Once again, they reiterate that it is their 21st year as a criminal. Off in the background, we can see more rumors happening. Apparently, there's trouble brewing because of a dispute over the treatment of animals with the cavernous theaters. Apparently, we are skirmishing with them, so there's some wars going on. And before I say goodbye to my neighbor friend here, I'm going to inquire about any troubles. And they say a beast from the wilds has been harassing our people. The creature is Atta, wheeled round the wolf. I'm going to ask for the whereabouts of this wolf Atta. And they say probably on the move, or deep underground, but I can't be sure. Well, that's a little bit tricky. Let's ask about a specific individual. Wheeled round the wolf. They reiterate that it is a dangerous animal. Opening up the conversation screen again, I realize that there isn't too much more I can get out of this person. So I think it is time for us to scroll down to the bottom and say goodbye. We do have a human axeman down here, and also a human swordsman. We're going to move over to this swordsman. There's also some whip wielders, a lasher. We have a axeman with a massive axe, and various other humans. There's also a cage down in the corner. Let's take a peek inside of the cage. Is there anything in there? Well, nope. I mean, I can pick it up. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I kind of thought it would be a little bit more stable. Of course, there are some chests here, which we can look inside of and see what's in them. We have an iron toy axe as well as some other items. And if we take a peek, ooh. You know, considering we haven't started with any sort of real high-value weapons, why don't we just grab ourselves a new shield? Maybe that whip as well. Pick up the whip, going to immediately press D on the keyboard, okay? And this is going to allow me to drop something. But first I need to take it out of my backpack. So let's click on the inventory, and we are going to scroll down. You might remember that when we very first, at the very beginning, when we started with some gear, specifically this flail. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the flail, and we're going to click remove this item. So now I've taken off the iron flail. Now I can press D on the keyboard and drop it. It's that simple. I'm also going to press Q so that instead of them thinking that they're under attack, you can also find the announcement screen by clicking this button or pressing A on the keyboard like I just did. Most of this gear is large size, so unfortunately it's not going to work for us. But I can, however, take this shield, and I also can take that whip. Also, make sure that we drop this buckler. And now, as you'll see, when I go to pull out my weapons, I pull out the crossbow. Primarily, I would like to be pulling out the whip. So I'm going to hit P on the keyboard while my weapons are out to put the crossbow into my backpack. Then when I press Q on the keyboard, I strap the whip to my body, and then I pull out the whip and the shield. A significant upgrade from the flail that we started with a moment ago. Now, when you see white text appear up here, it means someone's talking directly to you. This human lasher right here just started speaking with us. It would be rude to ignore them, and they say that their name is Bathru Twistreins. Long live the cause. I press K on the keyboard to continue the conversation. I'm going to reply to the greeting and be polite. I say, I'm Bora. Long live the cause. A beast from the wilds has been harassing our people. The creature is Atta, wheeled round the wolf. So I'm going to ask for the whereabouts, and they say probably on the move or deep underground, but I can't be for sure. I'm going to see if they could give us directions. So I'm going to ask them to join us, and I'm going to ask them to guide us to a specific place or location. And then when I type into the search function, ask them to guide us to the wolf Atta. And they give us some directions to speak with Sisha Evencurry, is well-traveled, and probably would have that information. Okay. Continue conversation. Let's ask about a specific person. I can now click ask for directions. So I'm going to ask them to take us to this person. They say Sisha is my neighbor, meaning they might very well be, well, right there. Having just taken a peek around the tavern, I've immediately spotted them. meaning they are nice and close by. Say goodbye and thank this person for their time. Maybe we'll ask them to join us sooner rather than later. And we start a conversation with them. We're going to greet the listener and introduce ourselves. And they say, hey, it is good to see you. Praise be to Warsop. Traveling alone in the wilds, you know better than that. Press K on the keyboard, open up this menu, and we're going to ask about somebody. Specifically, Atta, the wolf. What can you tell me about the wolf Atta Wheeldround? And they say it's a dangerous animal. And then I ask for directions and ask them if they can give us a location of Atta. Where can I find this wolf? And they say probably on the move or deep underground. I can't be sure. Well, that's unfortunate. I was hoping this would go further. We're going to go back to the person we were speaking to earlier because they seem to enjoy talking to us, being neutral and all. I'm going to greet the listener once again. And now that we have two conversations running concurrently, it gives us the option to continue both of them. This can get a little confusing. Just remember who you're speaking with. And we're going to ask them to join us on adventures. Such enthusiasm from one such as yourself. I guess they're still taking their own advice and not venturing out into the wilds. But I think it's time for us to do just that. Let's be polite to the two folks we were chatting with and begin wandering out. Now, if you would like to grab fisher berries or anything, you just need to wait until berries are actually in season. Early spring, berries and food of the growing variety generally are not in season. Also, be very wary about eating blood amaranth, as it will kill you. But this appears to be quite the farm field. Let's see if we can find out where town is. I'm going to hit Shift T to open up the overworld screen and begin fast traveling. We're going to fast travel before town, as we were in the tavern on the outskirts. Let's see what we can find in town before we start heading out. Ooh, that the town was under attack? Maybe that's what we've seen just now. So this is a town that is actively getting attacked by this person. This is an Eddie's Fist, a pikeman. These creatures are a small feathered humanoid. It has long swinging trunk, dark olive feathers that are of course fluffed out, and this night creature was first created by the human necromancer Eddie. One Closter, Lettershook, after horrible experiments on the human Astrog, pulley poison, saved monsters in the year 64. Well, that's mildly terrifying. Let's see if we can get into one of these towns and how these people feel about this situation. I'm going to start a conversation with this lady right here. We're going to greet the listener, and she says, "It is good to see you. This servant of art greets you." At which point I say, let's inquire about any troubles. Meanwhile, we've also got this swordsman who's running towards us, who's yelling at us. So let's keep talking with this human and inquire about any troubles. As the creatures close in from the outside, we realize that this might not be a place for us to stay, and I open up the movement screen. So I can find this down here under movement options. We're going to set it to sprint and see if I can vacate the vicinity as quickly as possible. I really wanted this to be a place where we would find some gear or a mount of sorts, but with these creatures all around, this is quite dangerous. They're shouting at me. Is that a weapon? What is going on? Is that a weapon? What is going on? Is he actually fighting back? Because these are necromancer experiments, we don't actually know how big these creatures are. We can look at their clothing and discern whether or not it's bigger or smaller than our clothing. It is roughly the same size. Their skills in fighting are comparable to ours, and there is a much larger number of them than us. We're going to try and get out of this situation rather than actually fight. But also, I'm going to try and get the best view of what's in this town as possible before we leave. People in every house, cowering in fear. One of the creatures appears to have split off from the rest of the group, and I am going to slow my run down to a walk. Now, keep in mind, you don't need to select done to actually say that you're done, and I'm going to wait on the keyboard as this one moves closer to us. Maybe we can take it in hand-to-hand combat. It's moved just below us. I'm going to hold down Shift A to initiate attack, or I could click on this button down here to initiate attack. We're going to see if we can get a strike of opportunity. When attacking, there are several different icons next to the different attack types. Plus means you're more likely to hit. Of course, you can discern quite easily based on these words written here. Can't land, fairly solid, normal strike, tricky, normal, etc. But if you see an exclamation point, click it and look at what it is exactly, because it will give you an attack of opportunity on an enemy in a specific way. So currently we have two attacks we could do. We could lash, which is a tricky and slow attack, but square. We could strike with our shield, and of course scroll down here to get different options. But if I punch it with our left hand, we can get a simple direct hit. I'm going to try for a quick hit so that we can punch him really fast and maybe catch him off guard. Everything else here is quite self-explanatory. The muscular Eddie's Fist Hammerman straps the Iron Maul to her upper body. She puts away her weapons. We tried to attack her, but she jumped away. I go for another attack. They tried to grab me, and I can immediately see that we have a good, solid hit on their right hand, but we also get an attack of opportunity on their upper body. But we have to scroll down quite far. If I scratch them, I can get a direct hit. I think I'm actually going to go around that one and instead go for the right hit on their hand. But I can also scroll down this menu and see if there's any other additional hits that could do quite well. I'm going to go for the easy strike on their hand. We have several different options. I could go for a heavy strike, a wild strike, which is less accurate and also, unbalances us. But I think instead we'll just go for a quick strike once again to be cautious. We struck at them, but the shot was blocked, and they drew their weapons once again. I now have several different options, including parrying, blocking, and dodging. I think we're just going to dodge, and we're going to dodge. Dodged out of the way of their attack. Open up strike. Scroll down throughout strike. Take a peek at what we have. Some decent hits. When I click this button, it also tells you what they're actively doing. So they're still swinging at us. I can get a good strike on their head, which I'm going to go for, and I'm going to attempt to lash them with the silver whip in the head. The muscular Ebby's Fist Hammerman strikes at me, but the shot was blocked with my iron shield. And we attacked them, but they jumped away. I'm going to move north one tile and press period to wait one turn. It's also worth noting that as you are playing adventure mode, you'll start to see tracks. Primarily, you will see your own, as those are ones you recognize. But keep an eye out for little icons on the ground, because they might indicate destroyed brush or things that have walked there already. We are now going to click the combat screen once again, hit strike, and select the nearest option that makes the most sense. Let's go for a hit on the head. I also think it's kind of ironic that I was intending for this to be a more passive journey-like adventure, whereas it very quickly turned into open all-out combat. Well, such is the way of things in adventure mode. We struck at them, but the shot was blocked. Let's take another look at this creature's skills. At any point, you can examine a creature. They are a skilled hammerman versus us. We are definitely not skilled in our whip, but we are an adequate fighter, which gives us a decent advantage here, I sense. We're going to keep the fighting going. They are regaining their balance. Because they're regaining their balance, we'll probably have an attack of opportunity somewhere. We have several, in fact. One for their eye and one in their leg. The one for their leg is a bash with our shield, which is a very good strike. Might destabilize them or knock them over. But let's have a look at the one in their eye, because it's good to compare your options. Ironically, I would be required to bite them, and it's a tricky strike. So while it is a good hit, I think I'm leaning the shield. We're going to go for the easy strike, fairly solid, and we miss once again. The only reason I didn't use the bite option is that would leave us vulnerable to incoming attacks. I think I'm going to back up a few tiles instead of continuing the fight. Let it walk towards us by one. Hit Shift A to open the attack screen back up and see what our options are once again. Seems a little rough. Let's click the button. Noting that it is coming at us, we are going to dodge northeast, down the hill. Move back a few more tiles. We are quite a bit faster than it, so that is worth noting. And as we move up the next hill, I'm going to wait 2 turns, click on the combat screen. We do have a lethal possibility. I can get an attack of opportunity on its upper body and scratch it. Very square, simple. Strike. You strike, but it was blocked by their iron shield. It's now moving southeast, meaning it's going down and this way. It's trying to go this diagonal direction. Meaning, if we're going to hit it, we have to hit it quickly. So now would be an opportunity to use a fast strike. We do have an attack of opportunity on its leg. We're going to make a quick strike, and I have to bite. And they jumped out of the way. Currently, they are in mid-air because of the little blue arrows underneath it. We move up one, move forward, and ended up underneath them, which is not good. They're currently charging. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to dodge. We managed to dodge roll out of the way. Still dodging, and I'm trying to stand up. After the second turn, I do stand up because we tumbled backwards. If we actually look at this, we got charged at, they collided with us, and we tumbled backwards. But we were luckily enough able to block the shot. I then open up the attack screen again. We can get an easy strike that's very square on their upper body. That's very good. There are some attacks of opportunity, but it's on their tongue and eyelids, so honestly, I think it's better to just simply go for the upper body. Scroll up to the top. We can get a slow lash on the upper body, but I'm going to speed that up to a quick strike. And they jump away. We move a few more tiles away. It is good to get these early 1v1s in just to get some combat experience with the weapon that you are choosing to use. We're then going to go for the normal strike very solid on their neck and bash them with our shield. They missed us and blocked our shot. They're currently regaining their balance after recovering from an attack with a maul. A maul being a very heavy weapon means their attacks are rather slow with long recovery time. Plus, they seem to be continually doing wild attacks. I can get a square attack on their neck, which is very good for us. It's a few attack of opportunities, but nothing crazy. And I'm going to go for another shield strike. And I missed. They are now still recovering from attacking me. I'm going to try to wrestle as they attempt to recover. We're going to try and grab them with our whip. We're going to go for their shield, which keeps constantly trying to block us. We were not able to grab their shield with our whip, but it doesn't mean we can't try a second time. They're still recovering from the attacks from us. We're going to try and grab them with the whip and attempt to grab their shield to disarm them. We tried a second time. They charged at us. We jumped out of the way. They're regaining their balance. And we're going to attempt a third grab of their shield with our whip. And of course, it was blocked once again. They are now charging north, which I think means it's a good opportunity for us to dodge out of the way. So we're going to hit the wrestle button. I think it's now a good opportunity for us to dodge out of the way. So we are going to dodge east. Open up the combat menu again. And it looks like we have two attacks of opportunity. One on the right arm, one on the left arm. Let's go for the left arm. What is the attack option? If we hit them real well, maybe we can make them drop their weapon. It's biting them in the arm. Let's do it. And of course, they blocked it again. I'd love to know what their full shield skill is, because they seem to be quite talented with that shield, especially in the blocking variety. They are charging directly towards us in the east. We are going to dodge south. They charge past us. They are now recovering from attacking and probably charging as well, and we can get a good attack, which is very square on their neck if I punch them. So, let's punch them in the neck. We attacked them in the neck, but they jumped away. They are now attacking me. I'm going to attempt blocking this time. We're going to block them with our shield. The muscular fists hammerman strikes at you, but the shot was blocked. They're now recovering because we blocked it with our shield, which gives them a stagger, sort of. And we are going to go for the normal strike on their leg with the whip. And once again, it was blocked. This could go south very quickly if we don't get lucky at some point. We can get a decent shot in on their feet. Let's try to do a quick strike with the whip. And she jumps away. I go to move nearby her. She's currently charging west, which is directly to the left, and recovering from attacking me. I can get an attack of opportunity on her upper body, probably if I bite. Yep. And she jumps away. I'm going to begin moving away from her just again, because frankly, I don't really want to be in this fight too much longer. If we look at our character, we are not exactly tired yet, so that's a good sign. That thing that I just did was jumping. You can do that by clicking on the jump button and then selecting where you would like to jump. Hit period to wait a turn for the character to catch up to us, and apparently we have a lethal opportunity, which is very good for us. We have an attack of opportunity on their leg if I kick them, which is interesting. But unfortunately, the attack missed. They come at us again. I unfortunately don't really have any good options. We're instead going to choose to dodge. I'm going to dodge southeast. Wait another turn for them to come to us. See what our options are. No attacks of opportunity. We're going to go for a lash to the upper body. But we missed. We're going to go for a grapple again. And I'm going to attempt to remove their maul from their hand. But she jumped away. I'm going to move south. Wait a few turns for her to come to me. And we are going to attempt to go for their arm again. And we are going to try to bash them with our shield. But it was definitely parried by their maul. Surprised she didn't get a free hit from that. I'm then going to check for attacks of opportunity while she's charging towards me. In fact, I got a pretty good one on her leg. We're going to try and strike her with our shield. But she jumped away. She's now attacking me with the maul. And I have several attacks of opportunity. One on their right hand. specifically if I bite it, which I think we're going to go for, because I would like her to drop either a weapon or her shield. And of course we missed. Brutal attack so far. Very evenly matched. But I do have a very good chance to hit her in the upper body, which is very good for us. So I think that's what we're going to do. Go for a quick lash in the upper body. Very square. And it's still blocked. If I do a bump attack, this will speed this process up. Unfortunately, she was able to get an attack in on us and hit. So I need to change the stride of battle pretty quickly. We have an attack of opportunity with our shield, which we do get through, but unfortunately she was able to block it. She's still charging north and trying to attack us with her maul. I'm going to go for the lower body with my shield, but we jumped away as she charges at me. Currently not charging, but is winding up to try and hit us again, and I have the opportunity to hit her in the trunk if I scratch it. Strike the muscular hammerman, but the shot was blocked. And it bashes us, but the attack was deflected by our copper greaves. Thank Armok for our armor. She's charging northwest and attacking us with her maul. And I scroll through, seeing a few more opportunities that look decent. We're going to try for a precise strike, scratch that, quick strike with our shield. We jump away. I'm going to set our movement speed to sprint because I can see that this fight isn't really going in our favor, and I don't want to get any more injuries than we already have. While I don't have any health problems, we do have heavy bruising. And checking her, she has nothing. In fact, we haven't even hit her yet. I think we may be bested. It's time for our goblin to take the trails and get off into the night. If you look around, you can see that there is a lot of farrowed clay around and spattering of water. This is likely people that have been moving around the village, as well as our own tracks, of course. When you've been running, don't forget to lower down your walking speed after a while, so you don't get too tired. And we're going to jump up to the overworld and begin leaving this cursed place for our grand adventure. Thank you very much for watching the first episode of this tutorial Let's Play. If you would like to follow this Let's Play closer, you can find the playlist on this YouTube channel. If you'd like to find other Let's Plays and a lot of adventure mode tutorials, check out my YouTube channel. On this YouTube channel, I'd cover everything related to Dwarf Fortress as best to my ability. If you'd like to see me stream video games live, you can find me over at twitch.tv/BLINDIRL. If you would like to support this channel directly and these kinds of videos specifically, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/BLINDIRL, which will get you into the credits of these longer formatted videos. And of course, I do also stream here on this YouTube channel, so if you keep an eye out, you might catch it while it's live. I'll see you soon for the next episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.